Is a Taliban takeover of Afghanistan now inevitable?
No, it is not. Because you have the Afghan troops have 300,000 well-equipped as any army in the world, and an air force against something like 75,000 Taliban.
1, 2, 3, 6. 1, 2, 3, 7. 1, 2, 3, 8. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Smiling and victorious, they took this city of 6 million people in a matter of hours, barely firing a shot.
This is a sight I honestly thought I would never see. Scores of Taliban fighters, and just behind us, the U.S. Embassy compound. They're just chanting death to America, but they seem friendly at the same time. It's utterly bizarre.
And as I was leaving the hotel this morning, 3 Taliban walked past me with machine guns and said, "Good morning," and carried on.
My national security team and I have been closely monitoring the situation on the ground in Afghanistan and moving quickly to execute the plans we had put in place to respond to every constituency, including and contingency, including the rapid collapse we're seeing now. The truth is, this did unfold more quickly than we had anticipated. So what's happened? Afghanistan political leaders gave up and fled the country. The Afghan military collapsed.
Now, I was not alive in 1975, so the situation at the Kabul airport is easily the greatest singular U.S. State Department debacle of my lifetime. And it's probably even worse in Saigon. It's probably the worst in U.S. history. Now, there's Western female journalists who are out on the street of Kabul talking to armed members of the Taliban. And then you have grown Afghan men. Notice there's a shocking lack of women and children at the airport. Grown Afghan men trampling each other to death to get on to outgoing planes. At least 7 people died today at the Afghan airport. You can hear shooting in a bunch of the videos. Supposedly, American soldiers were shooting in the air to get Afghans to stand back. They were using Apache attack helicopters as crowd control. You can see the clips on Twitter. The Afghans are blocking the runway to try to prevent planes from taking off because they weren't on the plane. And they got to use Apache attack helicopters to force people off the runway. And allegedly, 2 people fell to their death after trying to hold on to the outside of an airplane that was taking off. You can see it. It's all over Twitter. I'm not going to put it on this video because it would probably violate YouTube policies. Because if it's actually something falls from the plane, if it's actually people, they probably did die. But it's been reported now that the death toll is up to 7 people at the Kabul airport. Now, U.S. President Joe Biden was on television today reading a script. You could see him squinting and reading the teleprompter, reading a prepared script about how actually America won the war in Afghanistan back in 2011 when he was vice president. Although he does not explain why, even though him and Obama campaigned as alleged anti-war candidates, why did they not withdraw from Afghanistan in 2011 when the Taliban was much less popular and much less powerful? Now, Joe Biden actually states that the Taliban is more powerful now than it was in 2001, except this is actually still a false statement. As I've explained in my other videos, the Taliban is more powerful now than they have ever been in the history of the organization. In 2001, when America invaded Afghanistan, the Taliban did not control the whole country. Today, they control the whole country. In 2001, and even in 2011, the Taliban was still mostly a Pashtun ethnic organization. Now, they have so many Tajiks and Uzbeks that major cities with Uzbek or Tajik majorities surrender to them with very little fighting. The reality is that the Obama administration was a hardcore warmongering administration. They not only supported the continuation of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, but they started a whole bunch of new wars in Libya, Syria, Yemen, and sent troops into Mali and a bunch of other places. Now, the past 30 years, we've really seen U.S. foreign policy just escalating out of control. Now, in the 80s, America armed Saddam Hussein to the teeth, and we egged him on to fight against Iran. And then we told him that America didn't care if he invaded Kuwait. And then he invaded Kuwait, and we said, psych, and America declared war on Iraq to liberate Kuwait, Desert Storm. But at least George Bush Sr. had the foresight to say that we're not going to try to overthrow Saddam. We're not going to try to engage in nation building in Iraq. And once we liberated Kuwait, he said that's a wrap. Not that Kuwait is grateful at all. They continuously turn America down every time we ask them for a favor. Then you have the Clinton administration that started, ramping up the warmongering even more. And you had the war against Serbia. You had Madeleine Albright saying that, well, the Serbs protected me and my parents from the Nazis, but what's the point of having this giant military if we can't use it against someone? And in my opinion, the Clintons, Wesley Clark and Madeleine Albright should all be in prison for what they did in Kosovo. If you don't know, Wesley Clark tried to start World War III. He ordered a NATO general, Lieutenant General Michael Jackson, to attack Russian troops at the Pristina airport. Lieutenant General Michael Jackson refused and said, court-martial me, but I will not start World War III. Later on, he became kind of a hero for this. And then things just kept snowballing, and then Bush started Afghanistan and Iraq, the actual invasion and occupation of Iraq, which his dad did not want to do. And then, of course, Obama and Biden campaigned as anti-war candidates, giving speeches saying, we go in, troops come home, which was a complete lie. They started a whole bunch of new wars, Yemen, Syria, Libya, Mali. They sent troops to a whole bunch of other places. So anyway, after 20 years of a U.S. presence in Afghanistan, 20 years of people under the Bush administration and the Obama administration lying to us about the feasibility of the Afghan government spending all this money, at least $1 trillion. Some people are claiming even a lot more than that with interest on the national debt and whatnot. Consider this. Consider this. We were funding the Afghan military. We've given something like $140 billion directly to the Afghan military. The actual soldiers were making less than $2,000 a year. But we were showering them with billions of dollars worth of high-tech equipment. High-tech equipment that they weren't even using. The Taliban has taken possession of $3 million Scan Eagle drones that are still in the original crates. The crates were never even opened. The drones were never even assembled. This has been a gigantic grift. Politicians have been taking money from the U.S. taxpayers and giving it to their friends and donors as military contracts. This has been a giant 20-year grift. Who is going to be held accountable? Who is going to be held accountable for lying to the American public for 20 years about the feasibility of the Afghan government and the Afghan military? And who is going to be held accountable for the giant grift of U.S. taxpayer dollars disappearing into a black hole of the U.S. military-industrial complex? Now, what they want to do is say that if you don't support America's foreign wars, it's because you hate the troops. Nobody hates the troops. The whole world loves America's troops. I know lots of people who have served in Afghanistan, and many of them have gone on to take high-paying contractor jobs in foreign countries like Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Jamaica, and other places, because everyone wants to hire America's combat veterans because they know they're among the best trained and the most capable in the world. What people are outraged about is the 20 years of lying to the public about the feasibility of the Afghan government and the Afghan military. It was all a lie, and people are angry that politicians, both Republican and Democrat, engaged in a giant grift. They massively gave money to their friends in the donor class in the form of military contracts. $1 trillion has disappeared into a black hole under the pretense that we were building a Western democracy in Afghanistan. It was all a fraud. Who's going to be held accountable? Unfortunately, probably no one. All right, thanks for watching this video. Click the like button, post a comment below, tell me what you think about this, and please subscribe to my backup channels on BitChute and Odyssey. I'll post links in the description below. And click the subscribe button. New video every few days.
They've just told me to stand to the side because I'm a woman.